Temple Grandin.
Yes. She's our favorite.
Yes, our favorite too. And she's an inspiration, a legend. She's also grown up on a ranch
Yes.
with cows and with horses. Her very famous book,
Thinking in pictures.
Thinking in Pictures, and Animals Make Us Human. These are the books that narrate her experiences of being around cows and horses and how she found a way to not just connect with them, develop those social skills, but also express and learn from them about herself, that she needed pressure and how pressure makes her calm down
Yes.
and how that pressure can be given by, say, an animal.
Which all animals can help in animal assisted therapy?
Every animal has a unique healing quality. Dogs are pleasers, which is great in certain activities where we need a lot of active participation of the dog. Then where we need the person to come out of the shell and work towards developing a bond, developing a relationship, making efforts, creating boundaries, we will use a cat. Because a cat will not outrightly come and interact with you. You have to make efforts. Boundaries, bullying, all these are the abstract concepts. We want our children to learn this. But how do we demonstrate it? Through animals.
So I would love to know which all animals are, can help in animal assisted therapy.
So all domestic animals essentially can be a part of this therapy. When I say domestic, it means animals who live in close proximity with humans, which would mean dogs, cats for sure, horses, goats, to a certain extent. Cows or farm animals, like rabbits, can also be a part of therapy. But when we say therapy and interaction, again, there is a differentiation
Yes.
in these two.
Because you don't go around training cows and goats, right?
Correct. So
You can't train
when-
them.
correct. So when we
I've
say
heard about this current therapy with cow.
cow cuddle therapy,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
then again,
about it.
that's what cuddle different from
It's different
therapy.
from therapy,
Because
yeah.
the amount of rigorous training that a dog or a cat can go through and
Yes.
needs to go through.
Yes.
I don't know, can you do that? Horses go through.
Horses go through.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
They can go through.
So cow cuddle therapy gained popularity in UK.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
where people would just go to farms where they had cows and they would like sit down with the
Yeah.
cow and cuddle or
Yeah.
like be with the cow, which essentially a lot of families in India have already been experiencing.
Yeah.
Animal assisted therapy in any form is not going to take away the disability or illness. Like with autism also, this is a
Yes.
misconception that any treatment is going to take away autism. That doesn't happen,
Correct.
right? Or cancer. Animal therapy is not going to take away cancer.
It's just
It is definitely going to improve the quality of life of the
Correct.
person. It is definitely going to provide you more skills in handling your emotions, in handling your anxiety, in handling your behavior. It definitely is going to give you that unconditional support in dealing with whatever you are dealing with.
And managing with the
Managing
pain
it.
or managing
Yes.
with the
So even with cow cuddle therapy, if a cancer patient decides to avail cow cuddle therapy or being with therapy dogs or actual animal assisted therapy, it is going to improve the person's quality of life. It is going to equip the person to deal with his situation in a better way, in a more positive way than before. But it is not going to take away
Of
that
course,
disability.
yes.
Right? So cow cuddle therapy is a very it's a UK based concept. We've always had cows in
Yeah.
our society.
And
We've always had cuddling of cows, children growing up with cows,
Mm.
around cows. Yeah. So cows have a very good sensing and also reciprocation to humans.
Okay.
That is what we essentially look for in animals that can participate in therapy. Because you need to have reciprocation, right?
Correct.
A dog will very vibrantly and very obviously through his facial expression let you know that he's glad to see you. Cats are a little subtle in that manner.
Okay.
If a dog
I thought cat is the one who's a little mischievous or very spontaneous in responding back.
Yes, of course. But the way of expressing love is different, very different.
Okay.
Right? A dog will keep jumping, wagging his tail, hanging out his tongue and
Yeah.
jumping on you.
Whereas a
You
cat
should.
will probably just come and rub
Yes.
against you and let you know,
Yes.
I'm so happy you're here, but that's it.
Very, very
This
subtly.
fellow will be like, all over you and come and
Takes
sit on your lap and all of that.
Correct. It will take good 10 minutes to,
Yeah.
get that exuberance down.
Energy.
But a cat will come, rub against you, just blink her eyes, looking at you. That means that she's happy to
She's
see you.
happy.
Their way of expressing love, their way of expressing joy on seeing a human, or even their way of responding to stress in humans is very different. Right? A dog will come and probably lick you. A dog will come and put his chin on you if you are stressed. Right? A lot of times when we are stressed, we are not aware that we are stressed.
Yeah.
Right? Or we are not feeling good, or we are feeling very emotional. We wouldn't recognize the emotion until we experience it. Animals are able to sense that emotion
Sense.
before we experience it. Right? But a dog will come and physically be with you. He will put his chin on your lap, or he will nudge you to keep petting him, okay, or come and lick you. Okay, these are different ways in which a dog will address to us
A sense
stress.
that-
In a
That
human.
they have got.
A cat will just come and sit in the room. It can be that subtle.
I am there.
I'm there for you. But again, when I say co-regulation, cats, this is the way cats co-regulate in their family, whether it is cat to cat or cat to humans. Coming and sitting in your presence. Because when a cat sits, like if you have ever seen a cat in a loaf position, do you know what a loaf position
So,
is?
yes, of course.
Like a bread loaf.
Yeah,
A
like
cat will
this.
fold its legs inside and sit as if a loaf of bread, and close its eyes and keep purring. Now this radiates a lot of energy.
Oh.
Okay. One excellent resource I'll recommend is the series on Netflix called Secret Life of Pets. Okay, where they have very nicely demonstrated or shown how cats generate this energy. When a cat gets up, you will actually feel that place much more warmer than the rest of the, like if they're sitting on a couch or if they're sitting on a bed. So that's the amount of heat or energy they generate.
When
You
they
can feel
put
it. No, even when they're sitting.
Yes, yeah, but
Right.
that's true.
Right? So there are different ways in which a cat will address to your needs of stress or emotional support than a dog. A horse, again, we have seen horses in India only in, like, say, either the race horse scenario
Yeah.
or the horse carriages or the horses that you ride on a beach or the horses that carry load.
Correct.
We don't know about anything beyond this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But horses are so in tune with the humans around them.
Is it?
Right? That they can sense heartbeat also of the human. Because that's the level in which their survival. Again, this is all natural in animals. For their survival, they need to be in tune with a larger radius of living beings around them. Right? And since the horses are meant to live on open fields, right? So dogs might have a radius of maybe this entire house. Cats might have a even smaller radius, but horses have a larger radius of being able to perceive things around them. And horses are very sensitive. Like, let me give an example. Like the jockey that rides the horse. Okay, they are meant to jump over, say, a obstacle of maybe a certain height. Do you think that height is not possible for a horse to jump on his own?
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's easy peasy for the horse to jump at that height. But the game or the sport is not of what the horse can do, but what the rider can do with the horse. So it depends on the rider and his, focus, his intention that the horse is going to follow. That is the sport.
Tuning.
The white match.
The vibe. So that is how horses are incorporated in therapy, where just by being around horses, again, like I mentioned, co-regulation, horses will reflect your emotional state and will act accordingly. So if you are restless, the horse will also be restless. And if you're given a simple task of going and petting the horse will not stay in one's position. He will always, be jittery or move around. Then when the therapist reflects this on the person, because you're anxious, the horse is also feeling that anxiety. Why don't you try to just center yourself, just feel the horse, put your hand on the horse.
From the dog.
Yes. Because firstly, horses are very big. They're larger than us. And they, when you touch them, you get that feel of being that powerful, muscular being that they are, but also surrendering to that power and understanding that they're going to be there, and I'm going to be safe around the horse. Again, all of this is facilitated.
Yeah.
This is with the guidance of a therapist, right? And when you see that being reflected to you, like if you are calm, the horse is automatically going to calm down. If you're doing a particular activity like say brushing the horse, brushing the horse is not as easy as brushing the dog. You need a lot of like hand movement,
Yeah.
power,
Strength.
again, strength and also awareness, body awareness, because the horse's feet, keeping your feet away from the horse, your positioning on the horse, so it gives a lot of like body movement awareness when you do that activity. Just like the dogs need to be qualified with a certain personality and training further after evaluation, horses also need that kind of personality evaluation and training to be incorporated in this work. But horses can work very effectively with people on the spectrum. They can give them a very good social, like I said, a safe social recreation of the social structure and practice a lot of social skills, with horses. There are two types of equine therapy. Like therapy with horses is called as equine therapy.
Yes.
So there are two types, which is the mounted activities and the unmounted activity. Mounted activity means when you sit on the horse and you actually do riding. It is called therapeutic horseback riding. So that in itself is a different program. And then you can do non-mounted activity, which means that you need not sit on the horse. You're doing the activity around the horse, right? So these are two different ways of therapy, including horses in therapy. And you all know of Temple Grandin.
Yes.
She's the legend.
She's our favorite.
Yes, our favorite too, and she's an inspiration, a legend. But if you have read her story, if you have understood her story, she's also grown up on a ranch
Yes.
with cows and with horses. And through her words only, her very famous book,
Thinking in pictures.
Thinking in Pictures. Yeah, so her very famous book, Thinking in Pictures, and Animals Make Us Human.
Yes.
These are the books that narrate her experiences of being around cows and horses and how she found a way to not just connect with them, develop those social skills, but also express and learn from them about herself, that she needed pressure and how pressure makes her calm down.
Yes.
And how that pressure can be given by, say, an animal. There is assistant animal training for autism. So assistant animal, it comes under the service dog category
Okay.
for autism. Okay, so children who have anxiety, like sudden anxiety, sudden panic, and they need pressure to calm them down, the service dog is trained to lie on them.
Okay. Oh.
Right? So children with autism who may have trouble sleeping or sudden nightmares or sudden night tremors, as it can be called.
Oh.
So the service dog is different from a therapy dog. I will definitely elaborate a little more on that. But a service dog is there with the person with disability 24/7, and service dog is not a pet. Therapy dogs are essentially pets. So a service dog for autism would mean that the dog is trained specifically for that one person, for the specific needs of that person.
Oh. Okay.
So therapy dogs are trained to put their weight on the person with autism when they need that. So sensing that and putting the weight till the person calms down is the role of a service dog for autism. So there are many ways in which, and then this has come from, like the early experiences that Dr. Grandin has shared of her experiences of being on the farm and on the ranch. Revolutionary welfare strategies with cows. So, yeah, horses, cows, dogs, cats, rabbits. Rabbits, again, they are not like dogs or cats. They have a very different way of being around. They are prey animals. They're not predatory animals. They are prey animals.
We're going to be the
We are always going to be
Predators in their
predators.
life.
Sorry, I was going to say predators. Because we are always going to be taller than them, right? So how we approach that particular animal, whether it's a cat, horse, dog, or a rabbit, we have to keep in mind how they perceive us,
Oh.
right? So when you see a rabbit, of course you would want to go and catch the rabbit. But the more you chase the rabbit, the more the animal is going to go into the prey.
I'm
Instinct.
a prey. I'm a prey. That person is coming.
Someone
to,
taller than me is trying to catch me. That's always going to be there. But when we train, when we tell people to sit down, like when we have work with rabbits, the rabbit is never in a cage. The rabbit is either in a large enclosure where humans can stand, sit, and it's like maybe bigger than this room. Okay, so that the rabbits are free to exhibit their own behavior. They will have their own habitat. With tunnel spaces, with hiding spaces, with ample of grass and hay, everything, right? And the human will be trained to sit down and wait for the rabbit to come. Now, this again is about, co-regulation and biofeedback. When you are chasing the rabbit is not going to come to you. But the moment you sit down, you calm down and you just wait with the intention for the rabbit to come to you. The rabbit is going to approach you. And that sense of, accomplishment, that sense of acknowledgement that the rabbit has given to you, that is going to add on to the experience of the therapeutic experience and the positive experience that the rabbit is going to give. Then, yes, the rabbits are then trained to either eat from your hand or do certain small tricks. Rabbits are very playful. If you give them that kind of a setup. Again, play is a behavior that comes only when the animal feels completely safe, including humans.
Yeah.
So play can happen only when the habitat of the rabbit is where he feels completely safe. But playing with a rabbit is so joyous, very different from dogs. You can't throw something to the rabbit which is going to fetch, but the rabbit will chase. The rabbit will what we call as binky jumps, which means if you've seen Bugs Bunny or Thumper the rabbit, how they jump and clap their hind legs. So that's called a binky jump. Rabbits do that when they're very happy, right, or very excited.
So cute.
They have zoomies, like how dogs.
Zoomies like dog. Oh my god.
So it's very
So zoomies is
energy
indescribable energy bursts which could just happen without
Anytime.
any reason. Anytime. And they just do mad things. Which is so cute when they do those mad things.
So it's
Going
just
out
an
now.
energy burst where the animal needs to vent out that energy. It can be due to overexcitement also. It's not always like, a bad thing to happen. It's in
And it's
fact just a
lovely.
release for the
Release.
animal. So dogs also do that. Commonly pet parents would have experienced zoomies in dogs where the dog keeps on running like
Yeah.
high speed around the
On the bed, off the bed, on the bed, off the bed. What is happening? Zoomie.
What is happening? Yes. So rabbits also have zoomies. The rabbits will also run around, and it's very it's a different experience. I can't really describe being in that situation, especially around rabbits. But what rabbits also teach. Again, every animal has a unique healing quality.
Is what I was going to ask you, because the characteristics you explained about the dog are totally different from, because here you have to match the energy of the animal,
Very
wherein the dog matches your
Yes.
energy.
So
Comes
be
to
able
where you are.
know which kind of
dog
therapy animal you need to bring into that situation.
Yes.
Is also where they
is
need
why it's
to be
important
discerning.
for the therapist to make aware the parent
Yes.
as to which animal assisted therapy will work
Yes.
well.
Well.
So we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a
Before that,
Yeah.
you had mentioned about fish also being used. That is fascinated me a lot, and I would love to know. And then we come to that
yes.
next question.
Yeah. So again, like every animal has a unique healing quality. Okay, dogs are pleasers. Dogs
Yeah.
are very overt in their expression, which is great in certain activities where we need a lot of active participation of the dog. Okay, where we want the dog to respond actively to the needs of the person. At all these times, dogs are the best therapy partners. Then where we need the person to come out of the shell and work towards developing a bond, developing a relationship, making efforts, creating boundaries, we will use a cat. Because a cat will not outrightly come and interact with you. You have to make efforts. So cats compel us to come out of our comfort zone and to make an effort towards creating that bond with them, developing a relationship with them. Okay, petting a cat is not going to be easy. You need to know where to pet the cat, how to pet the cat. Is the cat in the mood to pet? What is all this demonstrating? It is demonstrating how to recognize a need in another person. How many times are we taught about this? And how do we teach this to children?
Correct.
It is an abstract concept.
Yes, it is.
Boundaries, bullying, all these are the abstract concepts. We want our children to learn this. But how do we demonstrate it? Through animals. So when a child learns how to respect the boundary of a cat, the child is learning to respect boundaries. Now this is true for even for children on the spectrum. Okay, they also very quickly learn that the cat does not like to be petted like this. So then they will wait. Okay, how to communicate his need, that if the child wants to play with the cat, how should the child approach the cat? How should he start the game? So that the cat responds. So this is all communicating your needs in a
And teaching them patience.
teaching them patience, teaching them skills, for social interaction, teaching them turn taking, patience. So many things come in a simple game of play, right? And also understanding body language. So when I say communication happens non-verbally as well, cats have even more subtle body language, like I mentioned. So understanding that body language, that if the tail is like this, if her ears are down, what does it mean?
What is it?
So again, these are social skills which can come handy in a non-verbal way for a lot of individuals who may not have words as their first channel of communication. Right? So cats have a different way. Horses, again, majestic, large, you can ride on them. They provide a lot of stimulation to the spine, which helps in body balance, which helps in brain stimulation, coordination, eye-hand coordination, motor skills, muscle toning. For a lot of individuals with developmental disabilities who have low muscle tone, riding is one of a very good way of improving the muscle tone. Because when you're on the horse, you automatically, everything in your body works towards that coordination.
Balance and coordination.
When you're standing, it doesn't
Stability.
happen. Right? So it is very good for individuals on wheelchair. Again, it has to be done in a very specialized way. But yes, those who have spina bifida, those who have paraplegia, those who have any other neurological disorders, therapeutic riding is one of the very good options to explore. Again, they need to first see whether the program is certified, whether the instructors are certified to provide equine therapy, because that is only when it will give full maximum benefit. Right? But great. Overall, working with horses is very good for behavioral issues. In Pune, I conduct a program for teenagers and horses. Okay, to work on confidence, to work on boundaries, to work on social skills, communication skills, and it's a great program where we have different horses, and these are all free horses. Like usually you will get to see horses who are in one stable pen at a time, right? But horses are essentially social animals. Just like we need close proximity, we need to see each other's face. We can't be in one room, like one person in one room only, right? We need to interact, mingle. Horses also need that. They need physical contact with another horse. They need ample free space to run around.
Wow.
So the place where we work, the stable, who's our stable partner, they have this kind of a setup where the horses are, given ample of time to interact and enjoy each other's company. And just observing that, for children, they can make a lot of inferences. So if two horses are running about in the rink, and the one horse is kicking the other, then we put forth the question to the teenagers, what do you think is happening here? Then teenagers will only come up with things like, oh, I think this horse doesn't really want the other horse to bother him. Why don't you give him some space? So, they are making inferences. They are understanding social cues, which is a big thing. A lot of social and behavioral skills can be worked on, even with individuals on the spectrum. Teenagers who are on the spectrum, who are learning to be in the social setup after a very sheltered way of being raised in a school. Because after a certain age, they will have to venture into the social circuit. So animals become a very good buffer to teach them those social skills that they can then use in the regular society. Now coming to fish. Fish are not going to be trained, or they're not going to respond like all these animals that I spoke about. But they have their own unique healing quality. Okay. So again, we do these activities in two different ways. There are fish in aquariums, and there are fish which are in the open water, like ponds, etc. Aquarium, you've all seen an aquarium. There are different fish in that. Again, how to set an aquarium for a therapeutic purpose, has a lot of thought behind it. Because different fish will have different movements, different gaits, different visual, stimulation, right? There are slow moving fish. There are very anxiously moving fish. There are fish who swim individually. There are fish who swim in groups. There are fish who swim on surface. There are fish who are scavengers.
True.
So setting up a therapeutic tank again has a lot of thought behind it. But
It's a science.
it's a science. I'll explain you the science. If, say for example, we all have a lot of thoughts and we have thought overload. Sometimes we are not able to stop that, right? And a lot of people try to seek a spiritual, or that kind of an approach, a mindfulness approach where, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to let go of my thoughts. But again, these are all abstract things.
Yeah.
How will you know what letting go of a thought looks like?
Yeah.
How will you know that I have actually let go of a thought? Or when you say, but keep your mind blank, what does it mean?
How do you do
How
that?
do I do that? So this can be very nicely demonstrated when you start observing a fish tank in detail. So as a facilitator, what we do is we give them instructions like, okay, pick up one fish and just follow the movement of that fish. Just see where the fish is going. So if it's a randomly moving fish, you literally have to engage your brain-eye coordination to follow the movement of the fish. What this helps is this completely takes the focus away from whatever thoughts you're having, and you're completely focused on that one fish. This is this is a translation of mindfulness. When you say that be present in the now, this is what it means. The fish is able to help you bring your focus from inward to outward to that one point.
I have to share here this powerlifting girl of ours who is all over the place. She's often not in her place and she's out of the class or whatever. We don't have a therapeutic fish tank as such. Somebody gifted us a fish tank and we have fish in that. Just for fun, I'm telling you this. We had at one point, we had 18 fish. She gave all of them names. Sonu Nigam, Sadhana Sarkar, Lata Mangeshkar. She gave all of them. And she knew which fish was what. She used to tell us, this is Sonu Nigam, this is Arijit Singh, this is... I noticed that. It was a full nice activity because she's got her own name set over there.
How nice, how nice. But this is a good example of how children are able to project with the fish, right? So things that they may not be able to share human to human, they can do it through the medium of fish or like other animals. And fish being non-responsive give a lot of scope to projection. And just like how we say with cats, like if the cat is just sitting there, like this, blinking her eyes or staring at you, the cat is not thinking about anything. But if you ask the human, what do you think the cat is thinking? I think the cat is judging me. Animals give us complete scope. They're like a blank slate.
Correct. Canvas is clean. Their canvas is
And
really
we project our emotions. Like many times pet parents say, Mera Shona, Mera Babu to their pet, which is good. They're endearing. But sometimes they're humanizing the animal too much. One simple activity we do, and I mean with all animals, one simple activity we do with fish is we ask children, especially we work in this center called Bal Kalyan Sanstha, which is in Pune. It is one of its kind center which is open for all individuals with disability, and it's a free of cost center. So they have various resources over there. It's a recreational and vocational center. So they have different resources from computer center to a basketball court to a dance room to a music room. So all facilities are available for all individuals with disability free of cost. So we are running the animal therapy program over there since 2007. And in that we have various kind of fish incorporated, right from a large 6-foot fish tank to an open pond, koi pond, and to a small lotus pond also where we have guppy fish. But when we have the guppy in a lotus pond, it's like a biodiversity thing in itself. Like it's all interconnected. So the fish provide the what do you say? They eat the algae, and the lotus provides the algae, and it's all like a ecosystem in itself. Yes.
Mine.
But when we ask children, especially the children that come to Baltalan, are all of various disabilities, including children on the spectrum. A lot of children are not able to calm themselves down, especially when they come from a long bus ride, because a lot of schools are outside of Pune or like in the vicinity of Pune. So when the children come, the first activity sometimes that they do is go to the fish tank and just watch the fish, or we do this activity where we ask the children to put their fingers in the lotus pond, which has guppies. And guppies, what they do is once you put your finger, the algae essentially gets on your fingers, which we are not able to see. We just see our fingers in the water. But the fish will come and they'll start nibbling at your fingers. Now, this activity is a sensory activity. But for those who are not used to it, it can create a sensory overload. Secondly, you need to be patient to keep your hands in the water till the fish come. A lot of children will start splashing the water.
Then the fish are not going to come.
Yes. So then again, biofeedback, when they see that only when I'm calm, the fish is going to come to me, is when they learn how to keep themselves still. And what is all of this teaching? We do the same activity with adults, with like neurotypical, as we call it, adults, who are also not able to maintain their, what do you say, or control their anxiety, or they are not able to keep their hands in the pond for a long time. So for them also, it's an activity in mindfulness. You're focusing all your energy in that one point, just waiting for the fish to come and nibble. And when you experience that, you are actually experiencing that. You've feeling the sensation that the fish are giving you. Now this, again, it's a small thing that maybe someone living in the village putting their feet in the river and the fish coming and nibbling at the feet. It's the same
It's an
thing.
everyday thing for them, but
It's an
for us
everyday
we need to
thing.
create.
Yes, but when we
Opportunities.
facilitate it, not everybody gets a chance for this kind of human-animal interaction. It has to be facilitated in certain parts. But this way, we can use different animals, incorporate different animals for different activities to achieve different goals. You know, some animals we can take to, say, hospitals, corporate schools, like dogs or cats, or sometimes horses we can't take them everywhere. So we have to get people to the stable to where the horse is. Rabbits can't be taken everywhere, so the people have to come to where the rabbit is. So there are many ways of incorporating animals in your setup.
So
Okay, but as long as you're facilitating it in the right way, just having the fish tank and not looking at it is not going to help. What will bring in the therapeutic value is when you engage your children with that fish tank.
yeah, or there are times when there are meltdowns. I've seen that my learning facilitators do that. So they probably just come and plonk themselves in front of the fish tank, and that meltdown can be mitigated and reduced by just starting out on a story. What is happening to this fish? And they start telling, what do you think? Usko kya hua hai? Where is he? What must he have eaten today? What is he thinking right now?
Exactly.
Just basically to move the attention from that meltdown to something more calming, or just sometimes to actually get them to talk. We can use that. And wow, what is this fellow eating? The sucker fish.
Yes.
How much must he have eaten? Which of this is his potty? Or where do you think he has gone today? What must he be doing with the other fish? Both of them have come together. What did they talk to each other? Generally. So this is not probably with a therapeutic angle, maybe from the language angle, but just from a common sense angle. Abhi, there is a fish tank. Let's
Engage.
let's engage.
Yeah. So this is called animal-related engagement, right? As simple as when you're, say, you a lot of people are stressed out. They will open YouTube and they'll start watching funny animal videos.
Yeah.
Why is it relaxing? So many people do that. So many
Cats
people.
are very famous in
Yes, funny cat video, funny dog videos, because it is animal-related engagement. When you see animals being happy and playful, it automatically gives you a sense of calming.
Oxytocin.
Fun. And again, because we are wired to observe animals around us, if they are safe and happy, we are safe and happy. That is the basic, scientific explanation behind why we seek out animals in the first place.
Okay, so why animal assisted therapy in a school setup?
I think the simplest way to answer this question is that we need to understand that there is a realm available to us that is beyond human connect. You know, there is otherwise there's only human connect for us, and that human connect can be through the through the medium of words, through the medium of colors, through the medium of sound, movement, dance. But all of that is still human, right? So whether we have dance movement therapy, we have music therapy, we have drum therapy, whatever that is, there is always a human who is facilitating that or moderating it. Whereas in an animal assisted therapy, the entire medium of getting support changes. That works that much big time. There, the whole vibe, the energy that they bring is different from what a human might bring. Unconditional, non-judgmental. That's it. Like she has been always saying that that's what animals are all about. So that I think is the reason why every school must consider having that, because it is something that a lot of children take to very naturally, because we are also elements of nature at the end of the day. We are also animals in a evolved, so to say. I don't know whether we are, but and that's questionable sometimes, but that's jokes apart. I'm just saying that we are also animals, and we just take to animals very well, very easily, very naturally. And it's worth exploring, because I think there's a large population of children that just absorbs those energies much faster.
And because of that, the development is much better.
For sure, because you're opening up an entire new avenue for expression, for growth, for development, for them to explore themselves. They never know for themselves that they're capable of something like this. Becoming a pet parent, I have discovered so much of myself. In fact, if I should be honest, I'm a different person in the last 8 years of 7 years of having Rio. I'm a different person. I was not this, and I know that for myself. I don't need to explain it to anybody or prove it to anybody. But I know for myself, things that were so icky, picky, all of that has just gone away. The way I see Rio responding, I learn. So even as an educator, I have changed. Even as a special educator, I have changed. As a parent, I have changed. So I'm learning so much from his existence. He's not
Just
teaching me, but I'm learning.
Yes, he's just there.
And so that's why they're just being there is also such a big thing. And that's why schools, if they cannot have but there are lots of schools today that are doing that, that they may not have therapy dogs, but they have dogs on campus, that are being taken care of, that are being cared for, loved, fed, petted, because sometimes that's all they need. And that can be a two-way benefit. That's what Rio has done to me. And I know that is the kind of thing that every school should be able to take the benefit of. Having an animal, be a cat, be a dog, be a horse, be a cow, be a rabbit, fish tank. Let there be somebody other than a human being on campus.
So I would like to elaborate more on this, that we have programs for schools, animal assisted education programs, where our teams help schools set up their own animal therapy program, and they can do it with a visiting therapy dog. Like Rio stays with Manjushri and he goes to school every day because someone from within the school has taken up the responsibility of the dog. But that may not be possible for every school. So we have teams in 6 cities, not just in Mumbai. We have teams in Pune, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Chennai, and Delhi, Gurgaon, right? And we have teams who can provide you visiting sessions. So a school can at least initiate this and provide it to the children, who are on the spectrum, who are neurodivergent or who have other needs, not just this, but there are other needs also like behavioral, emotional, and the visiting dog can then work with the counselor in the school and or with our therapist in that city, and we can create programs for the schools. So this is our animal assisted education program. Then we have the in-house therapy dog program, wherein someone from the school, if the person from the school is interested in taking up the responsibility of the dog, the dog cannot live in the school campus. The dog has to be a part of the family. That is our first condition. So somebody will have to take up the
changes otherwise.
Yes,
you can't have them.
It has to be a family dog, and then the dog is trained particularly for that school setup. So Rio is trained for Atman in the Atman setup. Similarly, we have Frankie, who is an indie dog. Like, believe me, that it's not just Labradors and Golden Retrievers. Our local indie dogs are street dogs who are adopted, who are raised by a family in a very good manner, can also become excellent therapy dogs. And one such example is Frankie, who is at the American School of Bombay. He's also adopted by Marcy, who's the principal of the primary section of at American School of Bombay. And he works beautifully in the school setup. So all over, you will see that schools are now taking interest in this, are taking it seriously because they have seen a tangible change. We have a lot of documented evidence on how therapy animals can help schools deal with or work with children on the spectrum, or other children with other specific needs. And it definitely helps the children, but it also helps the school environment, as she mentioned.
Totally, exactly. So
Once-
it elevates the entire vibe.
Yes. And one simple thing, there are so many children who come to the school crying because they don't know why they're going to school. They don't understand that. They are dysregulated. They're dysregulated, right? But the moment they come in the school and see the dog, their outlook changes. They are much more able to regulate their emotions with the dog than just coming to school because somebody is sending them to school. That is like the first change that you will see with the dog being there.
And one thing I wanted to also add here, when you said why should schools have, it's just that I feel it is an option that we have to keep available, like a buffet. There are some children who take to it the best more than any other form. So some children take to, just like we also have in our school a lot of work being done with plants, a lot of gardening related work, because there are some children who take to that experience of mud and stones and pebbles and water and the plants that are growing, leaves touching. That becomes a very interesting option for them to be here. In fact, I've had multiple admissions that have happened to my school only and only because of Rio. They want to go to the school that has a dog.
Dog. Yes.
The other question that's popped up is these, so to say, they absorb all this energy, the animals. How do they cope up with that negative energy? How did it went out?
Yeah.
What is that mechanism? Because we had a session earlier that therapists also need to have therapy to vent out the negativity.
Yes.
What about the animals?
So animals have an innate way of dealing with all of this, right? So, like I said, they believe in co-regulation. Right? If there is a pack of dogs, they will always, like, if something escalates, they will know how to de-escalate it. Like, just like how you said about meetings. Like, if there is an escalation in a meeting, having a dog will de-escalate situation, right? It will not go beyond a certain limit. So dogs have their own way of handling stress. All animals will have their own way of handling stress. Therapy dogs especially are trained to a level of managing that stress or being in a setting which might be stressful for a regular dog. So they have more tolerance.
Threshold
Is more. Training is definitely there, to sensitivity, to sound, to crowding. All of this is a part of a training. And then, like I said, the handler comes into picture, where the handler is constantly aware of the need of the dog. So if the dog requires a break, the dog is given a break. And irrespective of whether the dog is able to sustain through the session or not, even then after a session, the dog is definitely given a break. So we have ample of space between two sessions, between meeting two individuals or two groups, that the animal gets ample of time to de-escalate, to release that stress. Okay, the dog is free to play. The dog is free to move around. The dog will always have access to water and his own bed. In certain places where you have like ample of a room, like in an Atman or at a certain other schools where we will keep a dog bed, and that will become the no-go zone. So when the dog is sitting there, the children know that they are not supposed to go and disturb the dog.
Yes, that happens. He just gravitates and comes into my room, and Akash knows that he wants that. Akash
Yes.
gives him that during
Yes.
sessions.
So even during sessions, if not in the other room, in the same room, the dog can go and sit
Yes,
on his bed, and the therapy can still happen. The therapist can still engage with the child, but the dog is getting his space. So there are many ways in which we allow the dog space to manage his own overloading, stress levels, etc. Then post session, We give a full de-escalation time for the dog where we will play with the dog. We will make the dog run or whatever the dog likes. Some dogs like to play fetch, to play ball. Some dogs just want to sit and cuddle with us. Some dogs would like to go for a walk, sniff around. So these are different ways in which, again, every dog is different. But these are the methods in which our handlers and therapists will help the dog decompress after a session, right? And it's not that the dog will work for 8 hours at a stretch. It's not like humans. The sessions, the overall duration of a time that the dog is going to work is kept up to 2 hours, right? If the dog is going to work in a school and be in the school for the entire day, even then the number of sessions are going to be limited. The number of days that the dog will visit the school will be limited. So the dog will have his own schedule of sessions in limited doses, because that's when the dogs will also be fresh and the effect of the therapy will be there. Right? So this way, the structure is managed. And other than therapy session, the dog is free to do what he wants. So it's not that therapy dogs only have to always be well behaved, not bark. They can do all of that. The difference is that therapy dogs know the context. That they can jump with probably their pet parent, but they cannot jump on a child with special need or when they're in the school setup.
And they have the perception, right, kind of, they know when to behave how.
Yes.
They absolutely know it.
Especially, she mentioned the jacket. So all our therapy dogs have a jacket which has, their name and their tag. So when they have the jacket on, they know that they are at work. When the jacket is off, they know that now they can be free. So this differentiation is what comes through the professionalism, through the training, and through their, constant working on the field. Right? So they will have their own time to decompress, enjoy their own life, and do all sorts of things.
So now, when does a parent know, or how does a parent know that my child needs animal assisted therapy?
There's no one particular need, like I would say, because when we talk about children on the spectrum, you will find various needs. You cannot, again, demarcate it in one single way. But a lot of children find it difficult to interact socially. A lot of children find it difficult to express or let out, their emotions, okay, where they feel safe. Okay, like I mentioned before, with humans, it becomes difficult because the judgment comes in any which ways. But when they see the child struggling socially, emotionally, okay, I'm talking about even like the neurotypical children who might struggle with all these things, or who might have a lot of sensory seeking, okay, who might have body imbalance, motor coordination related issues, fine motor, gross motor skills, or even when they are not able to cope up with a school setting, like a regular learning environment. So at all these times, you will see that incorporating a therapy dog will help these children not just attain the goal faster, but also be able to express, right? So for example, if a child is experiencing frustration because he is not able to speak, right? The same thing with a therapy dog, he will be able to communicate and he'll be able to express the joy of being able to communicate with the dog. If a child is struggling with social boundaries, like for children on the spectrum, you will see that they sometimes lack boundaries. They will come very close. They will not know how to stand in front of another person. They will want to touch and feel, which for other people might be very strange. They can learn the same boundaries with a dog, in which therapy animals can help children on the spectrum, and parents can explore that. Unless, like you mentioned, unless they explore, they will not know.
So there's
what they're going to benefit.
There's no like a checklist or checklist that says that okay, this is there. So which means now the time is right to get the child to do it. It's you gotta put it out there for the child, expose it, and then you'll know. Some take to it like fish to water, and some of them probably don't really care much for having a pet around. They're very indifferent, or probably okay, whatever. They're in a whatever zone. Some kids on the spectrum. Some kids are very slow at warming up with dogs, and some of them crave for it. They ask for it.
So we also get asked a question that what if my child is scared? scared that as a parent, the parent would want the child to participate in animal therapy, but they know that their child has never been exposed to a dog, and being on the spectrum, they don't even know how the child will react by seeing a dog. So our therapist and our team is equipped to deal or to navigate with such a situation where children are initially scared of the dog. Correct. So if the child is given a proper guidance on interacting with a animal which is friendly and outgoing, then the child is actually learning skills of how to overcome that fear. So fear is never a decisive factor of not attempting animal therapy, right? The only thing we ask is whether the child has any particular breathing related issues or asthma, which might aggravate
Because of the dog fur.
But again, slow exposure to fur is always going to build that immunity rather than just keeping it away. But again, that is a thing that the parents can decide. If there are any respiratory related issues, then we do not.
Or allergies.
Allergies,
That's they get. Some people are very allergic to dog hair.
Yes.
Important. Also, animal assisted therapy is not, people are not quite aware about it. So, what would you like to say about this?
Animal therapy, is still relatively new in India, but I've been practicing it for 20 years. I've seen the field grow from a point where we would always encounter no dogs allowed, okay, or aren't humans enough, why do you need dogs? From such questions to now hospitals or special schools or education centers, airports, corporates, all of us wanting therapy dogs to visit them, right? Parents are seeking out animal therapists who can provide structured therapy to their children. Okay, people are waking up to the difference between what is just interaction between animals and humans and what is actually therapy. Right? Parents need to understand that when they are seeking therapy, they need to see whether the person providing this is a therapist. Right? So when we see this kind of change happening, we see that people are more aware of what is animal assisted therapy, and we see the field growing. So one great way of creating awareness about therapy dogs was the Airport Comfort Dog program. So in 2013, Mumbai International Airport approached us to collaborate and create a program of airport comfort dogs. And that is the first time that Airport Comfort Dog program was conducted in any airport in Asia, right? It is very popular abroad. A lot of international airports have their own comfort dog teams, but this was the first time it happened in India, in Asia. So our team of therapy dogs, our senior dog Pepe and Sunshine and Goldie, these were our senior dogs who visited the Mumbai International Airport for 3 years. And every weekend, our team used to go there and interact with passengers. And the objective there was to calm down passengers. Again, a lot of people would wonder, why would passengers need calm down, those who are traveling internationally? But there are so many stories. No person is traveling without baggage. That is emotional baggage. I'm not talking about luggage. Everybody travels with emotional baggage. And when you're stranded on the airport, especially, that baggage kind of creeps up and
The weight of the baggage becomes more.
Yes, and then on the airport, you have nowhere else to go, nowhere else whom to talk to, right? So therapy dogs at that point of time become comfort dogs, providing comfort to, say, stranded passengers who are traveling for a long time, delayed flight, constantly traveling in and out. But this was definitely the objective with which the program was created. But what it helped us in was to take the message of what therapy dogs can do to a larger audience, right? A lot of people had never even heard of the concept of therapy dogs. But through the Comfort Dog program, they were able to say that they were able to know that, oh, this kind of thing exists in India. And these dogs are our dogs. They had never seen well-behaved, beautiful, well-groomed, dogs quietly being there on the airport. So it was a big exposure for therapy dogs and for people to come to know that this service was available in India.
also available.
So currently, recently this year, we also did a pilot with Delhi International Airport, and many more airports taking up this. So it just helps us to reach out to a large number of people.
So you must have also encountered children or maybe adults on the spectrum who might be having a meltdown,
Yeah.
seeing a different place, or
We
so much of crowd noise.
One recent example is we are doing a pilot at one of the other city airports, and there was a child who was having a meltdown because there was a long waiting time before boarding, and the parent was not able to manage the child because again crowding. There's no what do you say, the
barriers.
A sensory overload that
sensory overload, and the shopping complex don't help.
True.
Right. That is what-
definitely.
It's
That
a-
will aggravate.
It's an
That will aggravate.
So there, when our therapy dogs went there, we had all miniature poodles, so very small,
Oh.
compact dogs, cuddly dogs, looking like teddy bears. And the child instantaneously took onto the dogs and calmed down. And the parent just couldn't stop thanking us that, thank God you were here. And because of this, my child was able to calm down. And I know that for sure that now I'll be able to travel calmly with the child because the therapy dogs had helped to calm him down and calm down or help his meltdown.
So, see, I think awareness being less is only because you get what you seek, kind of thing. And a lot of the times, there is a lot happening in the realm of animal assisted therapy or animal assisted interventions or all work being done with animals for any kind of objectives being achieved. However, a lot of people may not be privy to that information or may not even go for that information. So, like now, you're doing this podcast. Not everybody may see it, but because you have taken it up amongst a series of many other things that you're doing, so people who have now gotten connected with you and our family, are your broader audience, they will come to know about it through these little steps. So this awareness is going to come with more and more of us actually making an effort to bring animal assisted therapy into our work. Unless many and more of us do it, it's not going to reach out there. So one of the things I do oftentimes is I'm championing it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I want more people to be able to get the benefit of it.
Yes.
So this awareness will come as many and more of us speak about it.
But do you think there are so many animal assisted genuine therapists? So the demand and supply also comes into picture here.
It is growing. I conduct courses and training programs for mental health professionals, medical health professionals, as well as we have the Therapy Dogs India certification for the therapy dogs and handlers that work in this field. And we have seen the number of people opting to get trained in this field in the right way increasing over the last 5 years. And now with more and more, say, master level students taking this up as research, or even like postgraduate level taking this up to study it scientifically, more and more schools are now incorporating therapy dogs in their mainstream academic calendar or academic structure itself. This is a big leap, and it is growing steadily. Okay.
Yes. And when you ask demand and supply, I also personally feel that when the demand increases, gradually the supply will also start increasing.
Yes.
There will be more and more people who will see the merit in it.
Yeah.
In comparison to the other therapies, so speech therapy, occupational therapy, you can teach the parent to do certain activities at home. How is it about animal assisted therapy? What is the role of parents?
So before I must tell you this, that we have what we call allied therapies and alternative therapies.
Right.
Okay. So alternative therapies are these that have used alternative mediums which probably were not typically thought of as mediums for therapeutic purposes, which of course now there is a very thin line between them, but for our own listening, we say speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy would essentially come as an allied therapy, whereas dance movement therapy, arts-based therapy, animal assisted therapy would be more of an alternative therapy. And so therefore there is a difference between these two, where uh, in your alternative therapies you probably cannot do a home program.
Correct.
I mean, at max in music therapy, yes, I can give some home exercises. But if I'm doing dance movement therapy, there's nothing like particularly being done. It is done under the guidance of that particular
Yes.
therapy. As a special educator, so remedial therapy that I do, I give homebound program. As an occupational therapist, I'll give you 10 exercises to do at home.
Yes.
Right? But this is an allied, this comes under the allied therapy.
Yes.
So it is done under therapy, under the therapist's this thing.
Very nicely put. Very nicely
Is
put.
there a role of the parent in this?
Parents of children on the spectrum who would have pets at home.
Yeah.
Right? So once they experience animal therapy, again, breaking down the difference between what is therapy and what is
Yeah.
just interaction. The pet at home will definitely help the child in developing certain social skills and learning how to bond or how to relate to another being, because these are the challenges that a lot of children face on the spectrum. But just having a pet at home cannot be equated to therapy, right? Definitely a family can decide whether they want a pet or not. But they have to be mindful that having a pet is a full-time responsibility. It is like having another child.
That never grows up.
That never
That
grows
never
up.
grows up. And the amount of attention that the animal is going to need might be more sometimes than the child that you are catering to, who might be on the spectrum. So a lot jump into encouraging parents into adopting a dog or adopting a cat, because we have to first make them aware of what their responsibilities are and how much of a workload it is worth. So we have a team of trained dogs who they can come and visit and get the same benefit. That too under the supervision of a therapist. Because like we were mentioning before, that what if the child wants to interact with a pet but goes out and reaches out a street dog? It might not be of the right temperament. Exactly. So animal assisted intervention and therapy is a guided and supervised medium.
So then, really speaking, I think whatever I've understood, and you might want to correct me if I'm wrong, but like I said, in an alternative therapy is done under guided supervision, and that is it. So you don't go back for any home-related program or parents to do anything separately. Often that it is under supervision.
And during your session, do you need the parent?
Yes, sometimes we do insist the parents to sit in, because if the child is new to us and if this is the initial session, then we need the parent to either work with the child on the communication aspect or manage the behavior of the child, because sometimes while working with children on the spectrum who are very severe, especially around dogs, if it's only the parent that knows how to manage the behavior of the child, then we require the parent to be there. Because it is a sensitive situation and we need to keep in mind the welfare of both. So parents are involved, and a lot of times parents take photos of the dog and the child, and like you said, what can be done at home. So this is one
Social
thing-
stories.
social
Like we do
stories.
social stories.
Yes. So that is an excellent way in which the therapy dog can bring in that extended feeling or the extended activity of having the social stories or some activities that they can create for the dog, but the interaction has to happen supervised.
So they can take photographs and create a social story, have conversations around
Yes.
it, repeat those moments back home. All of that
Yes.
can happen. Yes, but probably
Yes, but the interaction has to be
an
supervised.
intervention is.
Even if the family has a pet at home and they want to get like the benefit of the having that pet at home with the child, even then the interaction needs to be supervised by a parent. You cannot say that I have now brought a dog into my home and now I'm leaving the dog and dog और बच्चे को घर पे है दोनों, they will manage. That cannot happen. Even there, the parent will have to be there to guide the child how to interact with the dog. The dog will be told what to do with the child. Other than that, you just having the dog is not going to give you the same benefits of therapy.
Wow, excellently put across. So, my last question to both of you would be one message that you would like to give to our audience, and likewise, one message that you would love to give.
I would say animals have always been around us, but now if we have gotten a chance to look at them from a different angle, a scientific angle, where they can help us with our mental health and with our physical health, and if we can give it a try, if parents can give it a try and seek out animal therapy, then they will see that there are maximum benefits that their child will get from this. Even individuals, will see that they will benefit a lot from interaction with therapy animals when they seek out the animal assisted therapy. I would also say that parents, of children of individuals on the spectrum, always think about their children first, and go to seek out therapy for them. But there is a great need for parents also to decompress, for someone to understand them and accept them at the level that they are. And a therapy dog here is an excellent, source for them to provide them the acceptance and that unconditional love that the animal will give, because the therapy dog is not going to differentiate the need of the child, the special child, or the need of the parent. So many times the parents have no scope of expressing themselves, no scope of decompressing themselves, and there a therapy dog can help the parent as well as the child.
Oh, that's right.
This is fabulous. Over to you, ma'am.
I think I speak from the perspective of an organization, and my message to anybody who is part of an organization who's watching this is to say, please give it a try. Not just give it a try, commit to it.
Yeah.
Because it is worth that time, effort, and even funds. It's every bit worth it. And the only thing I can probably end with is karke dekho. Because jab tak we don't try it ourselves, we will not really know what benefits we can reap from this entire program. And no matter what kind of organization you might be, just having a dog that is committed to your organization, or having therapy dogs coming in to support all learners, it's another level. I mean, it's like this: I cannot describe to you the taste or smell of something unless you experience it yourself. Okay, I tell you a particular dish is really delicious, but I can only describe it through words.
Yeah.
And that's got its limitations.
And the feel of that touch, it's indescribable.
Another level. I mean, what she very rightly said, I have teachers who come down and just cuddle him, and when they're talking to me, they're cuddling him. It's so therapeutic.
Yeah.
Brings down the stress. It's a decompressor.
I think listening to y'all, even I have got that feel, and I do have fear of animals, but I think I should go for one session for sure. Y'all have convinced me. Beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you. And believe me, it was an amazing session that we had today.